स्वप्न गांधी जी का अब साकार करना है। स्वच्छ सुंदर देश घर संसार करना है।
स्वच्छ भारत का इरादा कर लिया हमने, देश से अपनी वादा।
हमने जो माना है अब उसे निभाना है। हमने जो माना है अब उसे निभाना है। देश को ये दिखाना है।
स्वच्छ भारत हो जिस पे हो हमको नाज, मेरे दिल से आ रही आवाज। स्वच्छ भारत हो जिस पे हो हमको नाज, मेरे दिल से आ रही आवाज। भारत ऐसा हो जिस पे हो हमको नाज, सारे जहां से अच्छा दोस्ता हमारा।
Reflections 2017 is seeking to take a peep in our past to learn from our ancestors and try analyze why, what and how we are today. As in the social responsibility of a modern school, schools must endeavor to empower society with students prepared as the agents of social transformation. As the teams registered, they had shared information about their school's community services. 20 teams were then selected on the basis of relevance of efforts and appropriate measures taken. Quizzing is one comprehensive way of study of a large cross-section of topics under the sun. As soon as the teams arrived at World Unity Convention Center, the selection round 1 of International History Olympiad for juniors took place with 200 participants. Out of 253 participants qualified for round 2. purpose of today's education should be to unlock the mental blocks of mankind so as to cure the maladies of our age passed down as legacy. Founder manager of City Montessori School, Dr. Jagdish Gandhi, through his talk to the students, shed light on various revealed, unerring, and collected books of wisdom sent by one God from time to time.
To whom we cannot touch. We cannot see him, we cannot touch him, we cannot meet him, we cannot talk to him. Still, it is a purpose in life to know him. The question is, how do we know him? How do we know him? But this is the only purpose for which a man has been created. And that too, and to worship him. Where to worship? He is not seen anywhere. Where should we go to worship him?
For the judges of Expressive Eyes Individual Junior Competition, 64 posters on the topic Our Fundamental Rights and Directive Principles were put up for judging. "37 senior teams envision for and against the motion technological progress signifies the decline of human, moral, spiritual and traditional values." Here are the excerpts from the debate.
The topic for today's debate is technological advancements signify the decline in traditional moral spiritual values, and I stand here firmly and vehemently against the motion. Ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, asking the question, can technology change values, comes from the assumption that values can be changed. Now, that's a bit like asking if science can be changed. Yes, the best picture of the laws of physics might have changed over the years, but the laws of physics themselves haven't changed. Similarly, the basic idea and structure of values cannot change, so technology cannot signify the decline in values at all. Secondly, scientific progress is inevitable, but our morals have a great influence over what science is used for. You'd hardly find someone degrading morals in the name of science. Ladies and gentlemen, we are the ones who invented technology. We use technology. We have the power. We have the choice. We can use the power to make websites like 7 Cups of Tea, helping thousands of depressed teenagers every year, or we can use it, as my worthy opponent said, to make games like Blue Whale. Thirdly, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about traditional spiritual values. Don't you think now, because of technology, we're closer to our culture, our faith, our spirit more than ever before? The White House celebrates Diwali. Canada just had a huge Sikh festival. The Tata Sky offers a facility where religious people can have live footage on the television screens from all over the world. That is how it's easy, ladies and gentlemen. My worthy opponents present here might be creating a hue and cry on a plethora of things, but I would like to ask them one thing. Who makes the last decision? It's us, ladies and gentlemen, not technology. Technology is not the decision maker. It's us. We have the power. We have the choice. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. With this, I rest my case.
According to you, people make the last decision. But what about the children that are not mature enough to make these decisions? And we all know values are best imbibed at a very young age.
Ma'am, that is where your parents come in. We are assuming that parents are imbibing values in the children from a young age. If a child wants to make a decision, their parents should help them make it. Thank you. I hope I could answer your question.
Ma'am, you said that the degradation of morals in name of science is not possible, right?
I said we generally do not see that.
Okay. So haven't you heard about the terror organizations that are using the medium of internet and other kinds of technology to mislead people?
Sir, wars have been happening since the start of time. We've been killing people since we were early men. So you cannot blame technology for wars and terrorism when this sort of killing has been happening since the start of time. Thank you. I hope I could answer your question. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Today, a 10-year-old is seen blinding himself in a black block of isolation created by the gadgetic amenities around them. 10 years from now, I won't be shocked, ladies and gentlemen, if a 10-year-old asks me the meaning of word neighbor. Society undergoes continual changes, but the technological advancement is definitely not for the amelioration of social, human, traditional, and cultural aspect of our society. Now, the approach of a human being in his life is a clear reflection of his mental state, which has been totally hindered by the advent of technology, where the enhancement in the technological sphere has created such a momentum around the beings that it has restricted their lives only to a profit and loss statement. Earlier, success was defined as to get what you desire and attain a mental state of happiness and satisfaction. But now, this growing greed among people has enlisted themselves into such a block that they're not thinking anything above the boundary of their luxuries. Secondly, social life is technically the base of development of all kinds of values in an individual, which has been sadly paralyzed by this technological touch. Now this social life has totally moved towards virtualism, where especially youth today has dismantled the moral ethics of communication by becoming friends with people having appealing profiles whom they even don't know. And even if they know them, then so-called their socializing is only restricted within the boundaries of chatting, numbering likes and commenting, and when they're done with it, the best way to wash their hands off is to unfriend them. Also, ladies and gentlemen, internet possesses multitudinous loopholes that, like there is no segregation or censorship available online, by which an immature child may get in touch with some adult stuff to degrade his values completely. Also, taking the advantage of same anonymity, the terror organizations like ISIS and Al-Qaeda are misleading people behind 2 to 3 billion fake social media accounts in order to expand their terror base. The sexual abuse among children has risen to 53%. The cyberbullying has risen to 62%. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to tell you all that it's not like that the criminals are born today. But on the contrary, they are built by this vacuum which has been provided by the technology as a tool in the hands of immature to promote the destruction of values. Thank you, and with that, I'd like to rest my case.
Excuse me, you said that in the present people don't go above their luxuries. Then how are new inventions invented in this present too?
So first of all, luxury's materialistic approach is totally different as compared to the values and morals. Now, people have restricted their lives to the materialistic approach. So how can an individual whose approach in life is to gather more and more materialism can even be near about any kind of spiritual moral essence?
Industrial Revolution was the transition to new manufacturing process in the period from 1760 to sometime between 1820 and 1840. In sculpting or model display for the seniors, some wonderful ideas of that era took shape as the judges witnessed and quizzed 32 teams on their respective models.
This is a mechanical reaper. It was invented in 1831 by Cyrus McCormick. It's something which was used to crop their crops in Great Britain. So what this does is it takes the crops from here, it collects them and it trims them here, and it goes down to a collecting area. So this contraption was made out of metal, and only metal. It weighs. We went a lot of difficulties in transporting this. We had a luggage limit of 15 kilograms, and this was 11 kilograms by itself. So how we made this was, this is a garden rake. We went into a metal spare parts shop, like a junkyard. This is a piece of a garden rake. These are trolley wheels, and these are 2 wheels of wheelbarrows. So we were just searching, and we found this bit. This is what we based this on.
We all are aware that a coin has 2 sides. We also know that industrial revolution has 2 sides. It has both pros and cons. What we want to depict here is that when we're looking at industrial revolution from one angle, we cannot see the other aspect of it. For instance, if you're seeing it from the negative aspect, where people have lost their source of income, where people have lost their livelihood, where people have lost their jobs and migrated back to the rural areas, we see them revolting against industrial revolution. We see them revolting against the advancement in technology. We see them revolting against the machinery being introduced. And when we come to this aspect, we see that there is obviously the rich and superior class of people known as the bourgeoisie, who obviously enjoy a very luxurious lifestyle, and we also see that there are people who are homeless, who are unemployed, living under the flyovers, the very flyovers that those people ride their cars in. And sir, here we can see, here this is the positive aspect. We see the many inventions that took over that era and still to this day are very important to us. The first one is obviously the steam engine. And the last aspect is about, of course, the industries, one without which we would be nothing. There's the steam engine. There we can see a metro coming in. That was the first time a metro was introduced. Banks were coming into play, where money was being flown in, capital was being flown in, all the industries that were very prominent during that era.
As we all know, the topic of our model is Industrial Revolution, and a model revolves around one truth, that is, one change leads to another change. Our model is divided into 3 phases, that is, 1. Cashless society, paper notes, and finally a cashless society. In this, the very first phase, that is the minting of coins, it is shown how the minting of coins were used to done by using these tools and how it actually looks. In its it is a natural state and how it looks with the time span. He is Muhammad bin Tughlaq, who was the most interesting personality of that era. He was Muhammad bin Tughlaq, who at that point of time demonetized gold and silver coins and replaced them with copper and brass ones. Now, as we all know that change is inevitable, change is the need of hour. No one can stop this change, and this led to another revolution, the Industrial Revolution, when now man-made coin would transform into machinery notes, and this is how the process goes. Very first segment shows how the cutting of coins were done, and after the cutting of coins, after the cutting of notes, the printing of notes are done. And he is John Gutenberg, who invented this printing machine and dominated this era and believed in change like all of us. Like all of us believe in change. Now, for a cashless society, computer, Paytm, credit card, debit card, mobile phones are the most powerful tools in making our society a cashless one. But my question is, a complete cashless society, will it be beneficial? Well, time will answer the question. But only thing we know is that our society revolves around one thing, that is cashless to cashless. Earlier there was a barter system, and now we are making efforts to a cashless society. And this is what a model revolves around.
We are here, me and my friend Avinash, to represent Sunbeam School Lehertara, and we belong to the holy city Varanasi, which is also known as one of the oldest city of the country. Now coming on to this prospect, what we usually see, what is the basic meaning of industry here? What we see is processing of raw material and then manufacturing of goods.
Industrial revolution. It has been transformed to a new era, arriving era. Having the stations, the metal industries transformed to their various aspects, the cotton industries to be transformed under various aspects. Now, you all might be confused seeing the Gurukul and school under the heading of Industrial Revolution. Guys, let me clear you all. According to the Industrial Dispute Act of 1947, a same major case was arose for the Dew versus Supra Industries in 1978, which stated to 20 jurisdictions that schools and every education institution is a part of industrial revolution. An overwhelming
Coming on first to the Gurukul, that ancient time, the schools, how Gurukul was there. Coming on to the Concast, which is one of the oldest industry. Coming on to the Victoria Mills, being the first established mills, I should say. Coming on to the hospital, how basic previous hospitals were there when we consider women empowerment. Then we lack here in this prospect. But when we consider the Fortis Hospital being at the extreme right, we find that women empowerment is being there.
Coming to the ISCO. ISCO was one of the most polluted metal industry. Tata Industries took the initiative and transformed ISCO to its own franchise, and thus the contamination of pollution decreased. Now,
coming on to the previous stations, how we moved on. In basic times, we used to ring the bell, and then the train arrives. But coming on to the here, solar planes are being simply used here for the energy prospect. Here we represent our school, Sunbeam School Lehertara. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Here we have depicted a typical industrial revolution city, and we have tried to show how it was to live in those times. As you can see, there is a macadam road in the middle of the model that separates the rich and the poor. This depicts the basic class difference that arose due to the economic progress of the rich and the economic deterioration of the poor. This house built here is the part of the Carolingian Renaissance, which was the first movement in the field of architecture, and it was characterized by sloping roofs. The garden shown here is depicting the Garnisque Renaissance, which sprang up due to the middle class that became richer to spend more of its time as well as money in making gardens. Industrial Revolution is characterized with the introduction of telegraph poles, which were the first invention in the field of communication, as well as the introduction of street lights. On the right side, you can see the working class. One of the main demerits of the Industrial Revolution was the child labor that it introduced. You can see 3 little girls which are employed by the factory in crushing coal. You can also see the coal as being the raw material of the industry, and this depicts the newly discovered coal mines which were used by the industries all over the Industrial Revolution. The greatest demerit that Industrial Revolution did to mankind was the introduction of pollution. As industries progressed, they began to use more and more coal to power their engines, and as a result, air suffered. As seen here, as seen by the smoke coming out from the factory, we can think of the amount of air pollution that happened in that era. Here is a typical suspension bridge which was discovered in those times, and here is a typical example of the water pollution that happened in those times. Now I would like to show you the horse rail. The horse rail was newly invented during the Industrial Revolution as a proper means of transportation. Horse rails were mainly used to transport coal to the factories as well as the developed products from the factories to the market. The development of horse rails led James Watt to develop the steam engine. And as you can see, we have depicted a steam engine near the factory that takes coal from the coal mines to the factory as well as the developed products to the markets.
don't we all go on exotic